Hey, this is Jade from MTGcrashcourse, and I am sick, and I am not at school, so I thought I would make you guys this video. 2 disclaimers. The reason why my nose is bright red here is because I'm sick, and if I sound weird in this video, it's because I can't really hear myself talk. I'm plugged up, and I feel like crap. But anyway, let's move on to the video. So this is a deck tech for standard mono blue mill, as you probably saw the title. That was pretty stupid for me to say. You know, whatever, I'm sick. Just go with that. So I'm going to start with the creatures, and obviously because it's a mill deck, we need some creatures that'll help us mill, and that is going to start with a play set of Minister of Inquiries. This card is pretty good. It's a 1-drop, 1/2, gives you energy, and allows you to mill them for 3 every turn with the additional price of tapping the creature. Now, this deck's really thin on creatures, and that is why we wanted to pad out the 1-drop slot a little bit more. So the rest of the 1-drops in this deck is going to be 3 copies of Thriving Turtles. Thriving Turtles is really good. It's a 1-drop 0/3. It's good blocker. Also gives you energy to help with milling and just other things in this deck, which you'll see later. Now, it doesn't mill itself, but it's still pretty good, and it can even swing for damage later on in the game and just become a beast if you need it to. Now, that covers all the 1-drops in this deck. There's a couple other 2-drops, and I'll show you those right now. We're going to have a playset of Aether Theorist. Aether Theorist is a 2-drop 1/3, gives you energy, and it allows you to tap it, pay an energy, and scry. Now, scrying in all decks is relatively important, but it's helpful even more so in this deck so that you know what you're getting and so that you can set up your turn sequence. Now, after that, in this deck, we have a playset of 4 of Manic Scribe. Manic Scribe is great. It is a 2-drop 0/3. When you play it, you get to mill your opponent 3. You can trigger Delirium on it relatively easily in this deck and make them mill 3 every turn. It's actually really good. It's kind of the unspoken underlying killer in this deck, and it can definitely help destroy them. Now, our main finisher is a spell I'll talk about later, but you probably already know what it is. So, that's all the creatures in this deck, except for 2 7-drops. Now, that seems a little bit excessive, but trust me when I say this card is good, and it's very helpful for this deck as well. This card is a 7-drop Aether Squell Ancient. It's a 6/6 flyer, gives you energy on your upkeep, you can get rid of all their creatures with it, and once you stick it to the board, it is pretty much game over, and we have counterspells to help make sure it sticks. Now, this is a finisher piece in case we don't mill them out, and it helps fill a lot of holes in this deck, because this deck is not very, very good. It's fun to play, but it's not going to take you to any pro-level play, and it might help you at your LGS, who knows, but either way, this card's pretty good in it. Now, that covers all the creatures in this deck, and I want to move to Planeswalkers. In this deck, we play 1 Planeswalker. It is a single, lonely copy of Jace, Unraveler of Secrets. He's a scry and draw engine on a stick. He's just really good, and his ultimate can be really difficult to deal with no matter what deck you're playing against. Just counter first spell you play each turn, that can be really ridiculous for some decks. It makes it terrible. And so that's why we play 1 copy. If this deck wasn't budget, we'd probably want to play another copy or 2, but it's budget, so we're doing what we can. Now, after that, I'm just going to move along to spells, and 6 out of our spells here are going to be counter spells. 4 of the 6 counter spells is going to be Void Shatter. Void Shatter is a 3-drop counter spell. I think it exiles it when it goes to the graveyard, and it's pretty good. It's not as good as Disallow, but Disallow is like $6 to $10. It's almost the same price as our frickin' Jace, and that's not okay. So we play 4 Void Shatter because it's still a really good 3-drop counterspell. Now, the other 2 counterspells in this deck are a 2 of Negate. Negate is really helpful against the artifact decks, getting to counter Heart of Curon and other things like that, because they're technically not creatures, even though they can be. So that's why we played a Negate. The other spells in this deck, we're going to have a 4 of Glassblower's Puzzle Knot. And this card is really good. It allows us to get energy, it allows us to scry, and it allows us to get an artifact into the graveyard to help with Manic Scribe's Delirium. It fits well. The other card we're going to play in this deck is a 3 of Vessel of Paramnesia. I didn't really know much about this card till I started testing it, but it's a 2-drop enchantment, and that says for 1, you get to sacrifice it and draw a card, and your opponent mills 3. So not only is it an okay card advantage for you, it also mills your opponent, and that's kind of the key point of this deck. It also gets an enchantment into the graveyard for Manic Scribe's Delirium. We're kind of focusing on that a little bit because it is kind of a unspoken killer. Now, the other spells in this deck, we're going to have a 4 of Startled Awake, which will transform into Persistent Nightmare. This card is one of the key cards in the deck. It is a 4-drop sorcery that mills your opponent's 13 cards. Like, why is that, like, why? And if that's not good enough, you get to pay 5, you turn it back into a 1/1 creature with Skulk, and whenever that deals damage, you get the card back, and you get to mill them for 13 again. It's just really good, and even if you have another one in your hand, you want to leave that one in the graveyard, it'll also help with Delirium due to the fact it's a sorcery. So it's just really freaking good. And that is every card in this deck except for the mana base. Now the mana base is 21 islands and 4 Evolving Wilds for Delirium. Now, you're probably going, where is the playset of Aether Hub? This deck has an energy subset. Aether Hub is an amazing mana. Well, yes, it is. It's also like $4. And that is too much to pay for a budget deck. That is one of the first upgrades I would like to enforce on you. If you want to upgrade this deck, get the Aether Hubs. It makes everything better, and then it disallows instead of Void Shatter and stuff like that. Now, I would like to move to sideboard. In this deck, I don't have a sideboard that I'm going to tell you guys because this deck is versatile, and you should be able to build your own sideboard based on what you are facing at your LGS and what you are needing to play against. One thing that I would like to recommend, though, is finishing the playset of Negate to help against the Mardu Vehicles deck and other decks that require lots of artifacts. That's the one thing I'd like to say. The rest of it I'm going to leave up to you guys, because honestly, it's more important that you build the sideboard based on what you need in your local meta than what I'm telling you to do on the internet. So that is everything for Standard Blue Mill. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll be coming again with more deck techs and similar things like this. So please click the like button, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. Just enjoy your stay here, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.